Folks, welcome into another episode of That Betting Show for June 13th, 2019. Your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. He's Teddy Cifuranti. Give him a follow on Twitter at Teddy_Covers. I'm Donnie Seymour at Rightside VP. Let's get right into it, Teddy. St. Louis takes the cup in a wild Game 7. Pay the man his money. That prop swap ticket that we've seen, hedge, do not hedge. Well, the gambler does not hedge, Teddy, and comes down with $100,000. And how about this? We'll get right to the hot topic of the day. The wild ride from the Blues from last place to first place. Binnington was absolutely amazing, Teddy. In these big Game 7 situations that are not in your own building, you have to withstand that charge. He was absolutely outrageous. And all of a sudden, the Blues took the lead on one shot from the point, dominated in the first period, dominated in the second period. But, Teddy, world champions, those Blues.
Yeah, let's give them credit. And, of course, St. Louis, not a city that wins a ton of titles. The Blues have never won before. Let's give them kudos and congratulations. Browns fans and Lions fans now have something they could possibly hope for. But we have to talk about the $100,000 bet that Scott Berry cashed. And let's give him credit for making the bet at great odds. And let's give him credit for holding on to his ticket despite what most wise guys would have done, which is hedge off it in that situation. I would have hedged off it. You would have hedged off it. He didn't care. He cashes a big ticket and gets a ton of publicity as a result. So kudos, Scott. It's not what the pros would do, but you don't have to do what the pros do in order to make $100,000. Well done. Good bet.
Exactly, Teddy. Every day somebody wins the lottery somewhere, Powerball, so it's bound to happen. With me, I would never have had the stones to do that. The first time somebody flashed me around 50 to 60K, I said, you know what? Let me take that, put a cigar in my mouth, and I'm going to enjoy the rest of this series as a fan. And then you're sitting there, Teddy, with that remorse saying, you know what? Why didn't I hedge? Now they're going back to Game 7 as a 2-1, basically a 2-1 dog, and I'm not going to get any money out of it. So kudos to the man for holding on to that ticket. Got a lot of publicity. We'll see. I'm pretty sure, Teddy, in the near future, we're going to see him with another large future bet somewhere else that we can have fun with. But how about this? We talked about it yesterday in Major League Baseball. We talked about two bad teams. We were expecting runs, and we were heading into the fourth inning, Teddy, with a 0-0 game. But 14 runs crossed the plate, and hallelujah, Edwin Jackson gets a win.
Yeah. It's not easy to get those overs when it's, especially with overs 10.5, 11, 11.5, when it's nothing going in the fourth. But Toronto, they have 6 in the fifth, and then neither bullpen was necessarily able to get a whole lot of outs. We expected runs, and we got runs. Bad pitching, in this case, trumped bad hitting. Even the Blue Jays, who are the Major League's worst offensive team, worst batting average, they scored 2 or less in 5 straight games. Not when they're facing Baltimore pitching, they don't.
Yep, we'll take a look at a little bit more baseball a little bit later in the show here. But, Teddy, it's football season time. Yes, as of course, we always know it's June 13th, but we're getting you ready on That Betting Show for Game 1 and Week 1 of the NFL season. Today, that season team preview is those 2019 Tennessee Titans as we finish off the AFC South. The Titans, Teddy, how about this? 60-1 to win the championship in 2019, 30-1 to win the AFC, and the team total now currently sitting here in DraftKings in New Jersey in 8 at a plus 110. Second straight year of the regime for Mike Vrabel. We all know you only go as far as your quarterback's going to take you with Marcus Mariota. He does get some weapons back this year, Teddy. Both tight ends, Jonnu Smith and also Delaney Walker, are going to be back and healthy. They pick up Adam Humphries as a nice slot wide receiver, drafted another talented wide receiver out of Ole Miss, and we'll see if that defense will be able to hold up. The one thing that's always tough is when you see that ticket, Teddy, 60-1, it looks nice. 30-1 to win the AFC. But the problem is they do play in a very good division. Not like the New England Patriots who get that run of 5-1 every year. These teams are going to beat up on each other, but it is an interesting look that now Mike Vrabel into that next year. We'll see if they can take the next step, Teddy. What are we looking at here for this team in 2019?
Well, this is the only division where all 4 teams are lined at 8 wins or higher, which means that no matter what the rest of their schedule looks like, their schedule is going to be tougher than the league average because they're not facing the teams that are lined at 5 and 6 and 7 wins within their division and get 2 shots against them. That's not what Tennessee is. But you just rolled off a whole bunch of names. I want to ask our viewing audience, because this is a question, a legit question. If he hadn't rolled off those names, could you name 3 Titans besides Marcus Mariota? In my mind, this is the most anonymous team in the NFL. And when you have small market teams that don't have superstars and are fairly anonymous, those type of teams can be real money makers if they're any good, because the markets don't pay attention to them the way they do with teams that are on national TV every week. And a team like Tennessee has that potential. They were a decent point spread team last year. Of course, last year finished 9-7. plus 0.0 yards per play. They were dead even what they gained and what they allowed on defense. They were plus 0.2 yards per rush, a solid rushing team. Mariota, QB rating of 92.3, opposing QBs 84.4. The pass defense was pretty good, even though Mariota wasn't great. Finished -1 in turnovers and still had a winning record. Things to like about Tennessee last year. Then worth noting, they went 9-7 against a much tougher than average schedule. This year, their schedule is still tougher than average, but it's not quite as tough as last year, where last year was literally, I think, one of the top 3 in toughness. When you look at what they did in the offseason, you like what they did in the draft. Jeffrey Simmons, a guy who would have gone top 10, but for an ACL. A.J. Brown's a playmaker at receivers. Nate Davis can come in right away and help that offensive line. Free agency, Tannehill, I guess, Mariota's got injury problems. So you're bringing someone like Tannehill to back him up makes sense. Roger Saffold to help the offensive line makes sense. I worry about the defense. I really do. I worry about the loss of Arakpo, and you think Cameron Wake's going to come in and fill his shoes. Cameron Wake's on the downside of his career. I'm not convinced he's going to do a lot. Adam Humphries can do something. Maybe if Corey Davis steps up, we can see the Titans with legitimate threats downfield. That hasn't always been the case in recent seasons. But on paper, this team looks pretty mediocre. They look 8-8, 7-9, 9-7, somewhere in that range. That's where their team total is lined. So at this stage, I don't have a strong opinion betting Tennessee over or under. But for a season win standpoint, but in a week-in, week-out basis, I do think there might be some pretty good value on the Titans coming out of the gate. They're not a team that's particularly highly regarded in the marketplace. They could offer an extra point or two a week in September, and that helps cash tickets, no question about it.